Hey guys, welcome back. Today's topic is on the implementation methodology that should be followed in the SAP implementation projects. So we're going to discuss about the implementation approach, the steps that we have to follow while implementing a project, and what are the phases that we have in the implementation process. So let's get started. So here we'll try to understand the implementation approach and what all options do we have in the implementation process. So one of it is the greenfield implementation, or which is also called as the new implementation. Okay, so the new implementation or the greenfield implementation, it basically starts from the scratch. So in this case, the customer will not have an existing SAP system, or they might have an SAP system, but they would like to restructure everything. Like they would like to update their business process into a fresh vanilla system. Okay, so in this process, we are going to start from the scratch, like I said. So it basically starts from the it is an empty system basically, or maybe you can also dump your best practices if you have such kind of a tool. And then here we go with the process of discussing with the customer, like what is their existing business process, and what do we have in SAP, and how can we achieve their solutions, or do we need to enhance the solution, or do they have to change their business process. So that part of a discussion will be done with the customer. So this is basically called as a greenfield implementation. And next we have the brownfield implementation. It basically talks about the conversion of the customer's system. So in this scenario, the customer will already have their SAP installed, but it might be on a lower version. So a few examples could be that they would like to convert or migrate from SAP ECC to SAP S4HANA, right? So those projects will be considered as a brownfield implementation. So in this implementation, we basically upgrade the software of the customer system, but we are not going to change any of the master data. So based on the simplification list, like migrating from ECC to S4HANA, so there might be a few simplifications that should be applied by the functional consultant. So that will be taken care during the implementation or the conversion process. And then we have the bluefield implementation, or also called as the selective data transition. So here we are going to convert only a selective set of configurations or the master data into the upgraded system. So let's say the customer has the SAP ECC, and now he would like to use the SAP S4HANA. They can actually choose what master data and what configurations are needed to be migrated from the SAP ECC to the SAP S4HANA system, so that they can get rid of the redundant master data or unwanted configurations that they already have in their systems. So this is pretty much complex in nature. And next we'll discuss on the activities that should be performed by a functional consultant during the implementation project. So the first step of the implementation project probably might start with a pre-sales process, and also where if you are part of the pre-sales team, being a functional consultant, you might be invited to provide some demo from your corresponding area. So now let's say that you're going to talk to a pharma customer, and now they would like to see what options do we have in SAP, and how these processes, the business process, can fit into SAP, and what are the standard options we have in SAP, and how flexible is SAP basically to manage their business process or convert their business process into the SAP best practices, or maybe the good manufacturing practices. So that kind of a process will be done basically during the pre-sales, or maybe the initial discussions with the customer. And let's say we are fortunate enough to back the project, and now the project has been signed off. So now we got the project, and the next step is basically the consultants will be finalized, like what is the scope, like what modules, I mean, based on the initial discussions that we have with the customer. So we at least know at a high level like what modules are required, and based on that we are going to finalize the team, like who is the consultant will be working in this particular project. So once we have the team finalized, and then we create a project plan along with the milestones. This particular project plan will have the entire schedule of that particular project. And once we have the project plan finalized, we are going to arrange a kickoff meeting with the customer and the business heads, saying that, based on the agreement on the project plan, we are going to initiate the project. So once the kickoff has been done on the project, the next step is to perform the fit gap analysis or the requirement gathering. So the fit gap analysis in this particular stage, we are going to discuss with the customer by showing the available options in SAP and the best practices to be followed based on their business scenarios, and how can this be fit into their current business process. So if the existing functionalities that we have in SAP does not meet the customer requirements, only then we have to think about customizing the available functionalities in SAP. But we cannot, ask business to change their business process. Why? Because they might be following few GMP scenarios and the FDA scenarios as well. So according to the business process, we have to basically adjust the process or design the process in SAP. So this kind of requirement gathering will happen in this particular phase of the fit gap analysis. So once the fit gap analysis has been completed, and then we have come to a conclusion that yes, this is your business process and this is what we have in SAP, and these are the gaps that we have to fulfill. So these gaps can be either from the business side, or it can be from the functional side as well. And once the fit gap analysis has been completed, we move on to the scope finalization. So here we are going to define like what will be done exactly for the customer to meet the customer requirement. So once the scope has been finalized, and then we move on to the phase of the business blueprint, or also called as a BBP. So in this business blueprint, the consultant will be providing a huge document that basically holds the entire module structure, like what is available in SAP and what they need. So let's say in the business blueprint, we are going to define the org structure, the organization structure. So in the organization structure, we have to provide the plan codes, the storage location, and the warehouse bins, and so on and so forth, right? So all that information will be incorporated in the business blueprint document. So once the BBP has been submitted to the customer, they are going to review internally, and then they have to sign off that particular BBP, saying that yes, this document holds all the information that we discussed and is in line based on our discussions. So once the BBP has been signed off, only then the realization starts. So let's say there are a few instances where the customer will say that everything is fine until we finalize the scope, and once we submit the blueprint document, then they come up saying that this is not what I need, but I need it in some other way. Okay, so in that case, we have to revise the BBP again and see whether that particular requirement fits into the SAP solution or the process that we designed in SAP for their business process. Right? So the revised document will be again submitted with a new version, and then the sign off will be done on that particular revised document. So let's assume that the BBP has been signed off, and then the realization starts. So this realization is a phase where the consultant will perform his configuration part on his respective module. Right? So here they start creating the company codes, the plans, the storage location, and depending on the module, they now start configuring their complete module setup based on what has been agreed in the business blueprint document. And once the realization is completed, and then it is part of the consultant to start the unit testing. So this unit testing, it basically holds the complete integration scenario, starting from the creation of a sales order in case of an make to stock, just as an example. So the creation of a demand, and it goes to MRP, and then the production process, and then the quality management, and then if we have the warehouse, it goes to the warehouse management, and then again back to the sales orders, where you're going to perform the delivery, and then you have to create an invoice, so which again goes back to the finance. So this particular process, the end-to-end cycle, should be taken care by the in-house consulting team. And once they see that the process has been uh, completely finalized and is working fine, then they are going to create an integration test script, right? In case there are any issues or errors or maybe bugs in the system during the unit testing, they will have to fix it at that point itself. And based on that, the integration test scripts will be prepared by each and every module consultant. So once the integration test script is completed for all the scenarios that we agreed in the blueprint, then we are going to perform few data loads for the user acceptance test, which will be done in the quality system. So far the unit testing, it can happen in development, not the golden client, but it could be a test client. And again, it varies from company to company, and also few people, they say that I would like to do the unit testing in quality system but not in dev, and few other, they actually create a different client in the dev itself and then do the unit testing there itself, just to avoid multiple transports being imported between dev and quality. Once the unit testing is completed and the test scripts are done, then we go with the upload of data for the user acceptance test. So this UAT will be basically performed by the business team. So for them to test their scenarios according to the test scripts, they would need some data, right? Something like materials, maybe the PP master data, the QM master data, vendors, customers, materials, so on and so forth. Next phase, once the data has been uploaded and ready for UAT, the next step is from the business side, basically to execute the user acceptance test. The consultant from each module will be supported during the UAT process. So if there is a need of trainings, that will also be covered in this particular phase, and they are going to help in the in and out process of completing the UAT by their users. So once the UAT has been completed and the business has found that everything is working fine and according to their business process, and the system completely fits into their business process, then they're going to give a sign off on the UAT. This particular phase could be one of the milestone that has been predefined in the project plan. So once the UAT sign off has been done by the customer, and parallelly, we also can plan for the cutover activities to be performed in the production system. So the blocks that you see here in mustard color, these are basically performed in the quality system or QS. And whereas the pink ones, these are the activities to be performed in the production system. So the plan for cutover activities can take place parallelly during the UAT or maybe before the UAT, just to make sure and try to understand like what are the cutover activities to be taken care of before or maybe after moving the changes into PRD and before go live. And then once we plan for the cutover activities and we have the complete list for from each module, then we are going to release the transports into the production system or PRD. So the transport release to PRD will only happen once we have the sign off received from the customer on the UAT part, right? So since we have the transports moved into PRD, the next step is to perform data loads in PRD. So these data loads could be the material masters, it could be the PB master data again, the work centers, master recipes, routings, production versions, and the quality inspection plans, the quality inspection methods. Okay, so it depends. I mean, every module has its own set of master data, so they will be taking care of that. So once the data has been completely loaded in PRD, we typically send the complete data. I mean, we take a dump from SAP that has been loaded into PRD and provide it to customer to validate the data. So now it is the customer's responsibility to basically validate and see whether the data has been loaded properly or not. So in case if any correction is needed, they can again get back to the consultant and say that this is the change you have to do on this particular master data. And then we are going to start the cutover activities. Once we make sure that the data validation is completed, we start with the cutover activities. So these cutover activities, I'm going to discuss that in the next slide, like what activities should be performed in this particular task. So once the cutover activities are implemented, then we go with the go live in the PRD system. So this is where the users will start executing their transactions in live in the PRD system on a day-to-day basis. So during the go live, we basically provide a hypercare. It could be like around maybe 30 days or 45 days, depending on what we agreed in the scope of work. And once the hypercare is completed, we can then go to the AMS support. And now here in this slide, we are going to discuss about the implementation methodology that should be used in the SAP S/4HANA implementation projects. So the first thing is basically we are going to prepare the project, right? So what do we do basically in the preparation phase? One is the setup of the project, and the other one is basically to create a project plan or maybe create a roadmap of along with the milestones of that particular project, the date wise or the month wise. And then explore. So in explore, we basically do the fit gap analysis or the requirements gathering. And then realize. So this is where the functional consultant will do the configuration, unit testing, and also UAT. So UAT is done by the business team. And then we have the deploy phase. So in the deploy phase, this is again part of the PRD system where we upload the master data, we execute the cutover activities, and we also support the go live. So the way I remember this particular method is by the shortcut like PERD, PERD. So P stands for prepare, explore, realize, and deploy. So this particular implementation methodology is called as the SAP Activate Methodology. And now coming to the cutover activities. So we mainly have three categories. One is the management of delta stocks, where we are going to deal with the open stocks and also the stocks that are in transit, right? So during the cutover phase, users will not have any system to work on. So let's say the transports have been imported to production on the 1st of December, and the go live has been planned in the month of February 1st or maybe March 1st. So these 2 months or 1 month of time frame, they are going to save all the transactions out of SAP, right? It could be on books or any other ERP system that they are currently using. So if they would like to use this particular transactions being posted in the cutover phase, so those can be uploaded into the during the cutover activity itself. So that could include your open stocks and also the stocks in transit. So these will be uploaded or executed in SAP before the go live activity, right? So and then we have open documents. So the open documents, it could be the process orders, the sales orders, purchase orders, the plant maintenance orders, the inspection lots, the batch stocks, purchase invoice, sales invoice, and so on and so forth. So all these open documents can be re-uploaded into SAP either manually or maybe through a mass upload, depending on the volume of the data that the customer has during the cutover phase, right? And then finally, we have open balances. So these open balances basically talks about the vendor, customer, the GL accounts, and also the asset. So the open balances for the vendor are basically the totals of the outstanding invoices and the credit notes you have before you start actually using the accounting process in SAP. And coming to the customer, so this is the outstanding opening balance that the customer owes you, excluding the amount from the sales transaction. And GL like the general ledger, and these are the account numbers basically used to categorize the types of the financial transactions. So the most commonly used general ledgers are the revenues, expenses, and transfers. And then we are going to go with the asset uploads as well. So if I go back one step, yeah. So now here we see this as SAP Activate methodology. So we also have another methodology being used in the past. I'm not sure whether a few of them are still using it. So it is called as ASAP. So which is nothing but accelerated SAP. So this methodology, it basically consists of 5 steps. So the first one is the project preparation, and the second one is the business blueprint. The third step is realization. The fourth step is final preparation, and the final step is the go live and support. So that is how the implementation methodology has been improvised by reducing the number of steps, and also by enhancing the tools that we use basically in these two implementation methods, in ASAP and also SAP Activate. So I created this document based on my understanding and my knowledge. So if you have any more comments or any more best features that you would like to share to the community, please do mention it in the comment section. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching.